And welcome back. It is Ray Michaels here for Total News Nation and Grassroots 50. I'm here with the one, the only, Mark Driscol.
Good to see you, buddy.
Pastor Mark, it is great to have you here. And of course, you probably are familiar with Pastor Mark Driscol, the Trinity Church here in Scottsdale. And you've been doing some amazing things.
Well, thank you. We're having a good time. It's been a good year.
What you've been so outspoken this last election year, and it has been phenomenal. You know, I know a lot of people have been watching the story about how the city of Scottsdale wanted you to remove a sign. There's signs everywhere, but they wanted you to remove a sign. And what was your response?
It's just Jesus Christ 24. That was it. It was not a political sign. So we made thousands of signs and put them all over, including in front of Scottsdale City Hall, just for fun. And they were good about it. They were good sports about it.
I still have the bumper sticker right in the front of my car, so I got to tell you about that.
Great.
You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but we've talked a couple times. Yeah. I started attending your church for one specific reason. I was teaching the youth at another church, and they shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
And I said, wait a second, my God's bigger than this.
Yeah. And people should be able to choose.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. But for the church to make the decision for everybody, I think that is crossing a sacred line.
Yeah, God's bigger than that. I walked in, and it was coming home. That's what it was. I think at the time you had your praise and worship. You had one gentleman playing the guitar, and you would come out and you'd preach. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And since that time, what has it been, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
The church has just grown and grown exponentially because people want to hear the truth. They don't want sugarcoating. They don't want, I got to be careful if I say this. You speak the truth, you speak it boldly, and people are very receptive.
I think it was the Wall Street Journal just reported like Bible sales are up more than 20% year over year. The majority of people that are buying Bibles are younger people who are not Christians and don't go to church. But they're interested. So it's like, well, then teach.
That's right.
And let them decide, I believe that or I don't believe that. But if we don't teach those who are willing to listen, then we're not doing our job.
And I know that you've probably got a lot of pushback from other pastors. Oh, we shouldn't go there. We have to worry about this. And people are watching us. But you still have, you have stood with a strong foundation for the Lord. And you said, you know what? I'm not ashamed. I am not afraid. I'm going to speak the truth. And what God tells me, I will share freely. And you verbally process, because I love watching you up there. Oftentimes I can see that in your mind, your eyes are going off your notes, but it's like the Holy Spirit, you're almost like a conduit. And the Holy Spirit just says, empty out and let me say this to the people.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit, especially when I'm teaching men. And for me, for pastors, I love pastors, but for those who say, we shouldn't be talking about politics, like I teach through books of the Bible. In January, will be my 30th year as a senior pastor. I start my 40th book of the Bible, the book of Hebrews. And the backdrop of many parts of the Bible is God versus the government.
Yeah.
The whole story of Exodus, it's God versus the government in Egypt. In Daniel, it's God versus the government. In Ezra and Nehemiah, it's God versus the government. The government murders Jesus. The government murders a lot of the early disciples. The government throws Paul in jail repeatedly. So to say, well, we can't talk about the government, well, then honestly, you can't teach the Bible without talking about the issue of God versus government, because it's one of the massive themes of the entire Bible.
And you know this, but there were often times when Paul reverted back to say who he was, acknowledged by the government, right? To say, you can't do this to me.
I have rights and you can't take them. I'm a Roman citizen.
Yeah.
And so, but what's happened is, it's not like there's the church lane and then the government lane. The government has veered into our lane. They're talking about gender, taking of children, mutilating of children, taking over education, defining marriage. I mean, all of that is the church's lane.
Telling us that we have to shut down our churches,
which is insane.
It's crazy.
Well, now we know it was all a ruse and a farce, and it was based on fear.
But you knew that. You knew that going in, and you did not comply.
No, we didn't comply. No, we had no No rules, no regulations, no restrictions, and people are adults. They can make their own decisions, and we just rolled through it. We actually we rented all the bouncy houses and all the Ferris wheel, and I set up the property as a playground and a carnival for kids because everything else was closed, and I wanted the parents to bring their kids during the week. And just like, hey, we set up a full water slide park
Yeah.
at the church, and it was like the kids that went to our church, they never heard of COVID. They were at the church on a Ferris wheel, going down a water slide, eating a popsicle, hearing that Jesus loved them and there's no reason to be filled with fear.
Yeah.
And those kids will grow up and they'll be normal and they won't have all the mental health crisis that an entire generation is now suffering with.
Now you have, in addition to preaching, you have real faith.
Yeah.
You're reaching millions upon
I think
millions.
total social media combined reach this year through Real Faith is about 1 billion.
1 billion people
Yeah,
you've reached.
yeah.
Now your teachings, you do series of teachings, and I'll tell you what, I talk about this all the time. Of course, I attend your church.
Yeah, thank you.
But the leave and cleave,
Yeah.
right?
Marriage, family, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just so many people. I would watch the audience because this is what I do
Sure.
too, and and they're like, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me that by society we've been instructed to be a certain way? It doesn't have to be that way. It's not the biblical way.
Yeah.
It's not the godly point of view. And I think you really saved a lot of marriages just by telling them this is two shall become one flesh.
Start
Isn't
a
it
new
amazing?
family. Yeah, and so for us, like the clips from that series, I mean, it was wild, like tens of millions over and over and over and over. And part of it is, like I'm at the age now, I've got 5 kids, 3 are married. I've got
And
4
grandkids.
I got 4
Yeah.
grandkids, 4 little grandkids. So it's like, well, how do we set up them for success? They're getting married, they're starting their own family. We're sending them it's not like my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law joined our family. They started their own family. How do we honor that? How do we bless their family? And we've got fantastic relationship with our kids and grandkids, but it's because you hold it like this, you don't hold it like this.
Yeah.
You come in with rules and demands and guilt, they're going to distance. You come in with love to serve, they're going to hang out.
Well, my mom, I used to take my mom to the
Yeah,
mass.
I remember her, yeah.
She went to the Lord just a couple months ago.
Sorry.
But she absolutely loved you.
Yeah, she always gave me a hug. She was
And,
sweet.
yeah, and she was hardcore Catholic, and I know you were raised
Yeah, I
Catholic.
was,
I was
yeah.
raised Catholic. I want to talk about your men's ministry. I tell people this. I'm not sure if I'm accurate on this. I think you have one of the largest men's ministries in the country, because people watch online, and you've just been expanding and expanding, and you added another night, but the lives that you've changed, and these are not like the guys who
It looks like a biker gang.
yes,
There's
that's
a lot of tattoos and a lot of guns.
there's beards, there's trucks out front. It's not as though they're lacking testosterone.
No.
But these grown men that you would think that's the guy that I want in case somebody breaks into my house, and they are weeping, and they are
Pray, they sing, yeah.
it's amazing. What do you attribute this to? Because I know you've always had a love for men's ministry, even from the start. Mark tells, if you've not seen any of his sermons, you got to watch them. But he brings in a lot of back history about when he started and the guy who was going to throw the bike at you, and I mean all this stuff. But you speak boldly, and it's like you're one of the guys, and they relate to you.
Yeah.
It's not as though there's all this progesterone that comes into this room and everybody's holding hands singing Kumbaya. This is like serious stuff for a serious man.
Like military.
Yeah.
It's guys who care about each other. You get into the military and it's a brotherhood, but it's a masculine brotherhood.
Well, you said something that I thought was so instrumental for a lot of people is you have to be ready to stand there and defend and fight for your family, and in the next minute turn around and hold a child.
Yeah, tough and tender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and for us, yeah, men's ministry is our biggest. That's really where my heart is. I really love, and what we're seeing now is record numbers of young men are trending conservative. And we saw that with the last election. It was the bro vote that kind of, brought it over the finish line. But if all these young men are saying, I don't buy the progressive agenda, I believe there's 2 genders, I want to get married, I want to have kids, the question is, where do they go? And that's where I think the church has a great opportunity, especially for older guys, to grab the younger guys who maybe don't have a dad and to tell them, hey, we're here to help. Like, you want to marry a girl? That's great. You want to have a kid after you're married? What a great sequence. You'd like to buy a house? Fantastic idea. How do we help you to do that?
Yeah. And that's one thing that you also tell the youth. Any youth that are out there, you should not be promiscuous before you get married.
So, yeah.
Should honor the girl. And if the girl doesn't feel like she's being honored and respected by the man, get rid of him. I mean, you're bold in these statements, but they're all biblical and factually based.
Yeah.
This is the way that it is. And you go over statistics too. If you do this, here's the statistic. If you do this, here's the statistic. Amazing teachings.
Yeah, I think it's called the Success Sequence, and it's by a sociologist, Bradford Wilcox, at the University of Virginia. And he says, I think 93% chance that you will succeed and your family will not be in poverty if you do 4 things in order: graduate from high school, get a full-time job, get married, and then have a kid. If you do those 4 things in those order, you break generational poverty. It'd heal the whole nation.
Wow. And also family. Family, it's all about family. And the taking apart of families. And
What we've done, we have obliterated family, and we've told young women that masculinity is toxic and that murdering your child is aspirational. It's demonic, and it's completely anti-life and anti-family.
yeah, and one thing, I just talked to another girl about this too. You had a series called Old Demons, New Days?
Old Demons.
New Days, yeah. And you said this is not new. What we're doing right now is not new. You go back thousands of years.
Sure.
They were doing the same thing. They were creating eunuchs. They were sacrificing their children. They were in doing their worship for Astra and
Yeah.
Baal in
It's all the same thing.
yeah.
Even like in the days of Daniel, what does the government do? They take a perfectly healthy young man and they mutilate his genitalia and turn him into a eunuch. It's like, that's just the government taking custody of a child and mutilating them. It's like, well, that happened 2,700 years ago. And my argument is, when you see the same thing happening in different times and places, there's no human continuity, but there's demonic spiritual continuity, that it's a new day, but it's an old demon doing the old thing. And we're seeing that everywhere.
Yeah, and
Transgenderism, all of it.
Yeah, and it's not like they're going anywhere. They're
No.
just waiting for the proper time.
Yes.
Well, we love having you here over here. I know that Charlie Kirk and Carrie Lake came to your
Yeah,
service.
the weekend before the election.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that must have been great.
It was really good to have them. I'm really grateful, honestly, for Charlie. He's brought a lot of people out to vote and really activated a younger generation. And so I really appreciate Charlie, and he's one of the good guys. And then, yeah, with Carrie, she just texted this week, just checking in and
Yeah.
seeing how the grandkids are doing. And looks like she's got a cool new job coming online.
Yeah, and
And-
her and Jeff are doing well,
We're
and the
getting ready to
kids.
move to
Yeah.
DC and get all set up. So, yeah, it's good. They're good people.
Wow. Now you had an opportunity to meet DJT, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, I did. We, Grace, my wife, and I, right before the election, we went to the last faith event before the election. We got to meet him with some pastors. And then previous to that, I got to meet JD Vance. And both were enjoyable. Both were good. And honestly, I'm glad for the way the election went. It kind of feels like Narnia is starting to thaw a little bit. That's kind of what it feels like.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was instrumental at the Trinity Church in Scottsdale. We were actually signing people up, registering them to vote. Yeah. And we appreciate that so much because I'm involved in that
Yeah.
whole district. A lot of churches said, no, we can't get involved in this. You were open. Yes, this is what we need to do. We need to activate the believers because for some reason, believers were staying home.
Yeah.
And they said, we want to be left alone, so we're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And one thing that the founding fathers, these are not my quotes, but they said, the government is not run by the people. It's run by the people who participate.
Yeah.
And you allowed people to participate, which is the important thing. But we really appreciate you. We love what you're doing at
Thank you.
the Trinity
Thank
Church.
you. We're glad to have you.
But you're growing so
Yeah,
much.
we're looking for a building. So online is with Real Faith is God's been very, very gracious. And we did the Vote Like Jesus series, and I preached on it, published a book, like just educate people in political values based on the Bible. And now, yeah, we've got to find some more real estate for the church because we are we are out of space.
No, you need like a facility that holds thousands of
Yeah,
people
that's exactly
and
right.
events and all of
Yeah,
that.
that's exactly right.
I know that the place that you're at right now, that was actually prophesied that you would be
Yeah.
at that location. Are you still working with some of the other pastors? Because I know you have
Yeah.
pastors that you work with who are giving you any insight about where to go or what to do or
Yeah.
how to expand.
Yeah, some good guys that have been, pray, and they're older men that I honor and I listen to. And so, honestly, right now, just on the church side, we're actively, aggressively pursuing a couple thousand seat opportunity. As soon as I get it under contract, I'll let the church know. But we need to get some seats, big time.
You really do.
Yeah,
And now for the holidays, for Christmas, 8 services?
yeah, 8 services Saturday and
Now,
Sunday.
are you going to be at all of them?
So here's
I was
so
going to say,
nobody knows
I
this.
was going to,
I pre-recorded in the snow a really cool video sermon.
Okay, all right.
Use that because I'm like, I've been
that
doing
will
this 30
exhaust you.
years.
Yeah, no.
If I do 8, I'll be sick, and I want to play with my grandkids for Christmas. So this will actually be the first Christmas Eve, I think, since '92 or '93 that I'm not preaching.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'm babysitting.
8 services. 8. That is amazing. Amazing.
The people are dear. I mean,
Yeah.
you've met them.
Well,
They're dear.
yeah,
people.
yeah, and you're very honored there. You
I
and
love it.
Grace.
Yeah.
And well, your whole family.
Yeah.
This whole event started what, 7 years ago? 8
the
years
church
ago.
started, yeah.
But this was the family getting together at the kitchen table and deciding where God wanted to lead you. This was all a God thing.
Yeah.
Because you dream something so big that if God is not involved,
Yeah.
it's destined to failure.
Well, the funnest thing for me is doing life with my wife and kids and grandkids. We do ministry together. We serve Jesus together. Everybody loves Jesus. Everybody loves each other. And so to me, it's like, man, if your kids love Jesus and love each other, the rest is details, you know? So we're
Amazing.
really blessed. It's the best season of our life. And I get to be grandpa for Christmas. So I'm very excited.
And you got the beard, you got
I
everything.
do,
going
man.
on.
I am ready to go. Yeah.
This is Pastor Mark Driscol, the Trinity Church in Scottsdale, Arizona. Realfaith.com.
Yeah, realfaith.com.
And where else can they find you? At thetrinitychurch.com.
TrinityChurch.com, realfaith.com, and we're all over social
And you know
media.
where else they can see you? Total News.
Yeah.
You're right
Thank
on
you.
there.
Thanks for bringing me on there. I just happened to be loitering today and walking by, so thanks for giving me something to do.
We've had Pastor Mark as well as Andrew Womack has been on because we have Total News, Real Faith as well. And, you know, it's so important because, again, if God is not in the picture, you are destined to fail. And we honor God and we love Jesus. And we just appreciate you so much being out here. And thanks for taking some time with us.
Glad to do it.
I know you're out there with your family. You're probably hungry. You want to get a bite to eat.
I got a taco. I'm good to go.
Pastor Mark Driscol. I'm Ray Michaels here for Total News Nation and Grassroots 50. Stick around. We got plenty more interviews coming up. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.